Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. Skip explains that he is not sold on Matt Ryan and picks the Green Bay Packers to go into Atlanta and win against the Falcons. Shannon breaks it down and says the Steelers' Big Three is better than anyone else's Big Three, and he likes my boys from the 412 Sunday in New England. The guys debate their top 5 quarterbacks of all time and if Aaron Rodgers cracks the list. Plus, FS1 NFL analyst Chris Carter tells you why Mr. Aaron Rodgers is more valuable to his team than Psycho Tom is to the Patriots. And Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard is here to talk Russell Westbrook. That looks like a familiar shirt, Skip.
The shirt I have on right now, I wore only one time previously to record a commercial I did back in August with my man Morris Chestnut, in which I predicted Dallas, New England in the Super Bowl. So I decided I'm going to wear this one last time today just for old time's sake, and then I'm going to burn this shirt. That's it. It's over. I'm going to take it home and burn it.
So you want to let everyone know you were wrong in your prediction?
Well, I think I was almost right in my prediction. Who thought Dallas would even make the playoffs this year?
So now we get credit for almost, huh?
Almost
Well,
right. And the other half of the prediction could
Yeah,
be
wait a
right.
second. My Super Bowl winner is still afloat as opposed to your Super Bowl picks in August, which are gone.
Oh, the Steelers are gone?
Oh, you're claiming
Whoa,
the
you
Steelers?
can't reclaim. You can't
okay.
reclaim. You jumped off the bandwagon. Or maybe not. Maybe you're back on. We'll find out.
That was
little bit.
little ploy, little misdirection for you.
Right. Let's get it started with the NFC Championship game. The Falcons host the Packers Sunday on Fox. Atlanta comes in on a 5-game winning streak while the Packers have won 8 straight. Jordy Nelson missed last week's game with broken ribs, but practiced yesterday, reportedly without pads. Julio Jones injured his toe last week, but he said he'll be ready to go. Shannon, who wins?
I can't wait for this.
Skip. I'm going to be 100% honest. This is all heart pick.
Really?
All heart. I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons. When you look at this offense, they're 5th in rush offense, 3rd in pass, 2nd in total offense, number 1 in scoring. They're number 1 in big plays.
Okay.
And
Quick point of order. Just explain quickly before you go on with your analysis. All heart because you live in Atlanta?
Yeah, and
Because Matt Ryan is your neighbor, as you've said several times?
yeah, that's
Is that it? Is that the all heartness to the pick?
yeah.
Okay. All right, go on.
They're number 1 in big plays, and they're defined big plays in NFL terminology as anything 20 yards or more. They're number 1 in that category. Matt Ryan is playing at his all-time best, and I believe for him to finally show the validation of why he was selected with the 3rd pick in the draft, why everyone believed that he was a franchise quarterback, this will solidify it for him. And if you look at some of the other quarterbacks, they got to their first Super Bowl in year 9. Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. And I believe this is what this young man will do. Offensively, those 2 running backs, Devontae Freeman, Coleman, they do a great job of running the football, but they also cause so many problems in the passing game because they do a great job of splitting those guys out, putting them in the slot, putting them out wide, and letting them go one-on-one with your safeties or linebackers. The Falcons are also tied, and you love this stat, the fewest turnovers with the New England Patriots. They don't turn the ball over at home. And for me, I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers. I believe he'll throw somewhere between 350 and 400 yards, but he doesn't play defense. And I believe Matt Ryan is playing at an all-time best. And with that being said, I know Julio says he doesn't like to take, medicine for that turf toe.
I heard him say that.
But I believe for this game, knowing that how close he is to a Super Bowl, I believe he might take that pain-killing injection just to make sure he can get through the entirety of this game. I got the Falcons 42, Packers 34.
42-34. So that's a fairly significant gap. That's an 8 points, so they would cover, obviously, right? What is it, up to about 5 right now?
Yeah, I think it's 5.
Okay. So I have been waiting since last night to hear your pick because I figured I was going to be amused or maybe baffled by it because it felt to me last night like you were finally backed into a can't-win corner with your pick here.
I am.
Because if I can sort of re-navigate the last 4 months of Undisputed with some psychoanalysis sort of interlaced. So you did switch off your preseason pick, which was Seattle to win the NFC,
Correct.
right? And I had to make notes on this because it was hard for me to follow. But okay, so then you at some point, I'm not sure where it was, you jumped on the Atlanta bandwagon. I think it wasn't until December, maybe somewhere in December. And in part, you began to say, because Matt Ryan's the MVP, but you did qualify or disqualify that he's your neighbor in Atlanta. So there was some heart going on in that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Matt Ryan is the MVP, although I think you got inside information, maybe from Matt Ryan himself. Maybe somebody tipped him off. I don't know. But you think he's going to win the MVP, and he well might. But meanwhile, this is what was intriguing to me about what happened through the month of November. You actually joined me in criticizing your new man, Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yes.
Because I thought through November, maybe late October into November, you were even more critical of Aaron Rodgers than I ever was on this show, because you were criticizing his apologists for saying, oh, his receivers can't get open when he loses, but then when he would win, they give all the credit to Aaron Rodgers, and you'd say, well, he's still got those same receivers. How did they suddenly get open this game, right?
Exactly.
Is that fair?
That's very fair.
Okay. So you shocked me, because as Aaron Rodgers fell all the way to 4-6, I thought you were completely off his bandwagon to the point that you were puncturing all the tires in his bandwagon, right?
No.
No? No? Okay, well, that's just the way it came across to me. And I thought, wow, Shannon really saw the light and came over to the dark side over here, right? Like the anti-Aaron side. But then on November 28th at Philadelphia, Aaron Rodgers and company flipped that switch. And they won a game. I wasn't even sure they could win that. I can't remember which way I picked that game, but they won 27-13. And Philly was kind of a tough place to play for some people.
Defense played really well at home. They took the ball away.
Yep, they did. So all of a sudden, your switch flipped also on Aaron Rodgers. And before I knew it, as they started to win games, they went from 4-6, and then all of a sudden it's 5-6, 6-6. And after he had said, he guaranteed, right, that he was going to run the table.
I think we can run the table.
He said, I think we can run the table, which most people now in the iconic lore of Aaron Rodgers has become a Super Bowl guarantee.
We just removed the think.
Okay, the think is gone. So it's now, he's gone down in Super Bowl history as predicting that he's going to win the Super Bowl. But it's okay. I accept that. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing across the table that Aaron Rodgers, that you had criticized so harshly, is now suddenly historically great. Then he was transcendent. Then I went to transcendental, and you love that. So then he became transcendentally great. Yes. And not to mention just all-time special, right?
Yes.
The greatest thrower of the football we've ever witnessed, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now my mind's getting blown over here, because we went from anti to not only pro, but you are the leader of the Aaron Rodgers, so to speak, pack, as in Packers, because you're his biggest fan. You've almost become, it's almost become your new LeBron of the NFL is Aaron Rodgers.
My thing with the only problem that I had is that they criticized his receivers. His receivers are still not getting open. He's just fitting the ball into those tight windows.
Yeah.
So you can't say his receivers are not getting open when they lose, but then say he's great when they win, because those are the same receivers.
They are.
Now he's just making the throws that he was missing. That's all.
Okay. So then, as we know from last Sunday, unfortunately, and I hate to reiterate this, but thanks to two bizarre hand of God field goals off the foot of one Mason Crosby of 56 and 51 yards, my Cowboys are now out of your hair. And actually, Aaron Rodgers is off the hook for blowing a 21-3 lead, and he had a lot to do with blowing that lead at Jerry World last Sunday. And all of a sudden, here we go.
It's only a lead if you lose.
Okay, but he blew it. It got to 28 all and 31 all. But the point is, here we have historically great Aaron Rodgers colliding with another bandwagon, the Matt Ryan MVP bandwagon. And so I wasn't sure how you're going to sell or couch this, but that was a good way to go, because you just said you're speaking straight with your heart, but not with your head, right?
And I had Matt Ryan as the MVP since October. I told you that earlier when we voted. We talked about what about Tom Brady and all these other guys. I said Aaron Rodgers right now is the MVP. I have not moved off that platform. Matt Ryan.
Yes, except You've also told me that Aaron Rodgers is playing at the highest level of quarterback anybody's ever played.
He is.
And so, at least for the last 6 regular season games, you didn't think he made a run at MVP? Or, did he not deserve?
Yes, I think he and Tom Brady, but I think Matt Ryan, because he's been the most consistent from start to finish. They're going to hold those 4 games missed against Tom Brady. They're going to hold those 10 games that Aaron Rodgers was not his historically great self against him.
Too many voters will hold Deflategate against Tom Brady, in my opinion, so he's out.
But if you look at from start to finish, Matt Ryan has been the most consistent. He has the 8th highest scoring offense in NFL history, and that speaks volume. I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers. But here's the thing. Devontae Adams has yet to practice. Geronimo Allison has yet to practice. Jordy Nelson with those ribs. It's one thing, but you got to run, Skip. You got to catch the ball. You got to stretch out to catch the ball, and then they're going to tackle you. You're going to fall on those ribs. So playing is one thing for those receivers. Playing well is something entirely different.
Okay, I hear you. Yet, bottom line, the truth is, this is just me looking at you across the table. You are my brother now, right?
Yep.
We are partners in crime here, right?
You going Aaron Rodgers?
I'm going Aaron Rodgers because I believe in your head it's screaming Aaron Rodgers. That's what I believe is happening right now, because if you really and truly believed in Aaron Rodgers the way you do, and I see it in your eyes every day, you believe it the way you believe in LeBron James.
I do.
So if you really and truly believe in him, if he's the hottest quarterback ever, if he's that rare, if he's that all-time great, you got to go with Green Bay in this game. It is screaming for Shannon Sharpe to go with Green Bay. Unless you let your heart completely override your better judgment has to be telling you it's Aaron Rodgers, right?
But if you look at the last 5 weeks, the last 6 weeks of the season, Matt Ryan is matched in throw for throw.
Okay.
Yard for yard. But he doesn't have as many
touchdowns.
But
I will remind you, again, I've said this all year, and I feel like I'm beating a dead Falcon, I guess in this case. But the Falcons lost at home. Matt Ryan lost at home to the Chargers and the Bucs on opening day, and to Kansas City, who was just, I think Kansas City was overrated all year. I kept telling you that all year, especially offensively. They were offensively challenged.
Check down Alex.
Check down Alex. He cost you in that game because that was another bandwagon pick, but that's okay. So now it's Aaron bleepin' Rodgers. And now I'm going to speak straight with my head. This is my rule of thumb, and I've been doing this for a long time. If one team comes in and eliminates my Super Bowl pick, I am then going to stay with that team. I'm going to pick that team the next week, because if you can come into Jerry World as a 4.5 to 5 point underdog, Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay, and you can knock out my Dallas Cowboys, albeit with a 56 and 51-yard field goal, you did it. I can't wipe away the scoreboard. The scoreboard stands. Green Bay, 34 to 31. And so why shouldn't I then say, well, surely Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers can go in as a 5-point underdog once again to Atlanta. I personally don't think Atlanta's team is better than Dallas's team. We could argue that the rest of the show, but that's what I think. And so I got conviction on this one. I'm going with the 5-point underdog. I'm going with Aaron Rodgers, because what has he done there? What was his greatest playoff game in his history? Yeah. And he doesn't have that many really we're going to talk about this a little bit later.
He got a lot of great playoff games.
Yeah, he does not, but he has one really great one, and it was a 96 QBR in that Super Bowl run of his. Remember that was a divisional round game? And he goes 31 of 36 in that same building. This is the last game they're playing in that building, right? 31 of 36 for 366, 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. And then he went back there this year, and if Davante Adams had not run a poor route at the end of the game, that's what Aaron said, so I got to go with Aaron on this one. But if he hadn't run a poor route, maybe they would have kicked a late field goal from Mason Crosby to win that game.
He should have flattened the route off.
Okay, he should have.
They were playing 22-man.
Yep.
He ran the route as if they were playing a zone coverage, but they're playing 22-man with the safety over the top. And if you look at it in the video, you can see safety over the top and the corner behind him. Okay. So if he flattens it off, he catches the ball and he falls out of bounds.
Because Aaron clearly threw it where he thought Davante should have been.
Right.
And he wasn't. And if that ball gets completed, maybe Mason Crosby's going to kick a 56-yarder to win the game. I don't know. But it wound up, 33 to 32 Atlanta.
Yes.
in that game, Aaron Rodgers, 28 of 38 with 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, a QBR of 90. Wow. And I look at the 4 career games Aaron Rodgers has played in that building. He's completed 75% of his passes. So it's like a great shooting background. Like we talked about LeBron at Oracle, he just feels comfortable with the way it looks. Well, I think Aaron feels real comfortable in this building because he's averaged 338 yards passing in those 4 games, 10 touchdowns to no interceptions. So don't you like his chances in that building?
I like his chances against anybody, anywhere, because he's Aaron Rodgers.
Right. So now I look at Aaron Rodgers is getting a second crack at a defense. What happened when he got a second crack at the Cowboy defense? Wow. He went in, he tore it up, right?
Yeah, but I told you the Cowboys defense was overrated from the word jump.
Okay, but
you wouldn't believe me.
I still think it's better than Atlanta's. I know Atlanta's come to life here lately. Hey, and by the way, once that defense locked in on Aaron Rodgers, there was a long dry spell in there, but that's a whole nother, that's water under the bridge now. So if Devontae, for whatever reason, cannot go, I believe Jordy will try, and he's a tough kid, tough man now. And I don't doubt that he'll catch some balls in this game. I don't know how long he'll last, but they still have Jared Cook, and they still have Randall Cobb, and they still have Geronimo, and they still have Ty Montgomery. And by the way, before last week's game, Aaron Rodgers raved about Jeff Janis, who didn't make an appearance last week. Who did he throw the Hail Aaron to in the playoff game at Arizona last year? Jeff Janis. Well, he's still there. What is he, like 6'5"? He can run a little bit.
But he didn't play a whole lot last week because I think he was nicked up. I think he had a quad injury.
He did, but they say he's practicing. I don't know. You never know about the injuries, but I will bet you Jeff Janis will rise and shine in this game. So I think there's enough firepower here. And the flip side is, do you really trust Matt Ryan in a big game to get to the Super Bowl? I'm not sure. I'm not sold. I'm sorry. I just haven't seen it regularly enough from him in the postseason to buy completely in, especially matched up against Aaron Rodgers.
Have you ever seen him play this great in the regular season?
I have not.
So I think there, at some point in time, a guy takes that next step.
Maybe. And speaking of taking a step, are you sure Julio can take those steps necessary? I don't know, because that once you get the toe wrong, it just, you can't fix it. You can't mend it fast enough.
I totally agree. I know, like I said, my brother, the year my brother called, I think it was 112 passes that he never practiced, and he just shot the toe up on Sunday, and he played, and he ended up having surgery in the offseason. I believe that's what Julio's going to do. Julio realized now you can be macho and say, I don't like to take these, but you don't ever know if you'll ever be this close again to reaching your ultimate dream.
I'm not sure it's macho to say I won't take an injection. It might be the other way around. Again, I covered a team with Emmitt Smith, and he hated needles, and everybody would tell me off the record, just take a shot. He had a shoulder against the Giants. Take a shot.
The pain didn't get enough. It's just like a toothache. Now, you can be macho and somebody, I'm not going to get anything, but that tooth will get painful enough, it will make you go get some relief from it.
Yeah.
Because think about it, he left the game early. Why did he leave the game early? If he could take that pain, it got so painful, he couldn't take another step. Okay. They sent him in.
All right.
So at this juncture of the game, Skip, all bets are off.
All right. So maybe this is the new Matt Ryan. In fact, I told you early this football season on the old show, we had Matt Ryan on at last year's Super Bowl, and I just sensed this sort of new maturity and calm about him, and I liked him. I got a good feel for him. I think he sort of made peace with things around him, and he hasn't been as hard on himself as he used to be. He would get down on himself quickly, but I'm going to point out, in those 4 career games that Aaron Rodgers has visited his house, Matt Ryan has thrown for an average of 210 yards. Not really great, with 6 touchdowns to 4 interceptions and a QBR average of 61, which is not very good.
Correct.
So he's struggled in all 4 games against Aaron in his house, in Matt's house. So again, let's presume what you say is right, what your heart says is right. What if Matt Ryan plays great? I'm just expecting Aaron Rodgers, historically great, to play even greater.
But what might happen, turnovers are going to really play double this time around. All turnovers, all penalties are not created.
Okay.
You turn the ball over late in the fourth quarter. You get a costly penalty late in the fourth quarter. It's going to probably cost you the ball game. You get into the red zone, you kick field goals, you're going to lose. Because we saw that last week. Dallas got a penalty in the first quarter, and they got an opportunity to come back. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs got a penalty in the fourth quarter, and for all intents and purposes, it was done. So you better kick, you better score touchdowns, not settle for field goals. And if you turn the ball over late in the ball game or you get a costly penalty, you're probably going home.
I got you. So I'm going shootout, but I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers will be just a little bit greater than MVP Matt Ryan. I'm going all the way to 40-38 Green Bay on a Mason Crosby long-distance field goal at the buzzer. That's what I'm going with, because the hottest player on earth right now is the kicker for Green Bay, Mason Crosby. This is going to be his time to shine. Mason Crosby kicks Aaron Rodgers all the way into the Super Bowl.
No hand of God kick this time.
No, I don't think he'll need it this time.
Right down the middle?
No, because the Cowboys are better than the Falcons.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Well, why are they not playing Sunday?
Well, because of the hand of
The
God.
hand of God.
No, because Aaron Rodgers said, get out of here.
No mercy.
Sunday, it's the AFC Championship game between the Patriots and Steelers. The Steelers have lost their last 3 meetings with New England. Skip, this was your preseason AFC Championship prediction. Who wins?
I got-
one thing right.
What's that?
At least you got one thing right.
Well, I got the Cowboys the number 1 seed. You got to give me credit. Nobody even had them in the playoffs. Don't I get any credit for that?
Credit make enemies.
Yeah, credit makes enemies. Okay, back to Joy's question. Thank you very much. I think this is going to be a very close, lower scoring game that also could be decided by a last-second field goal, or at least a late one. And if I were a betting man, which I am not, I would take the 6 points and I would take Pittsburgh. But I am definitely taking Tom Brady in Foxborough to win the football game 23-20. I have told you since the inception of the show on September the 6th, Tom Brady on a season-long mission to get even with the Roger Goodell who tried to frame and railroad him during Deflategate. I believe that Roger Goodell was willing to sacrifice the great Tom Brady legacy as he entered his 39th birthday year late in his career, and try to wrongly convict Tom Brady to punish the Patriots for their history of cheating. That's exactly what I think happened. I believe that's what Tom Brady thought happened.
And before you go,
yes.
So you believe the commissioner went out on this alone. What part do you think the other 31 owners played in this decision?
I don't know for sure. It's a very good question, but I'm sure they were mostly in cahoots, if you will, here. Okay. Yeah, they were backing the commissioner, who obviously does mostly their bidding.
Exactly.
And I thought it was very interesting that I saw an NFL Network promo for the 2 championship games, and it featured 3 quarterbacks, but it didn't feature the 4th quarterback, and Tom Brady was missing from the ad. And I don't know, maybe it was just an oversight, but I don't think so. I think
NFL being petty?
Maybe a little petty. I think that's beyond petty. That's just that's just ugly. Yeah. So, as I've said about Tom Brady, the one thing that frustrates me occasionally about him, he won't say anything publicly. He won't vow publicly to get even. He always lets his actions speak. And now it's time for his actions to speak the loudest. They have spoken very loudly since he finally gave up and accepted his suspension. 28 touchdowns during the regular season to only 2 interceptions. It's the greatest touchdown to interception ratio in the history of the National Football League.
But Nick Foles, not to cut you off, Skip, but Nick Foles did once throw 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So don't make it seem like this is something that we've never seen before.
Okay, but 28-2 in only 12 games is the record.
Well, if he'd played all of them, how do we know he wouldn't have had more interceptions?
No, he probably would have had 38-2, knowing him this year.
See what you did? See what you did there, Skip?
Yeah, I see exactly what I did. Remember, he's 39 years of age. And not that he wanted, obviously, Rob Gronkowski to go down on November 27th, but Rob's been gone now. Gronk's been gone for the last 6 games. And all of a sudden, Tom Brady has the opportunity to prove a lot of doubters wrong. A lot of people say, he wins with Gronk. He's uncoverable. You can put 3 guys on him and you can't stop him. Now there is no Gronkowski. So all of a sudden, Tom Brady, who's a smart man, knows his history. He knows that his legacy could even grow now without Gronkowski, to the point that if he can beat Pittsburgh at home and beat Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl, that his legacy might grow to the point that it eclipses the great Joe Montana's in some people's eyes. That would be debatable because obviously Tom's won only 5 Super Bowls. 4 Super Bowls. But he did lose 2 technically, but not really. But technically,
Yeah, no, really.
Yeah.
No, technically, really. He
Joe
really lost.
Joe was 4 for 4. Should have had 4 MVPs, but that's a whole nother
With
issue.
0 INTs.
Yeah, you got it. So now that Martellus Bennett keeps coming up smaller and smaller, and we know that Chris Hogan's a little nicked up, and Malcolm Mitchell's been nicked up, and Amendola's been nicked up, it's really down to Tom Brady throwing to Julian Edelman, the college quarterback 7th-round draft choice, or bust. That's it. Tom Brady has a chance to go win a Super Bowl with Julian Edelman as his go-to guy, his number 1 receiver. You believe in that? Wouldn't that even raise the eyebrows of one Shannon Sharpe? Wouldn't that be impressive to you?
Skip, the reason why you grade him so high is because he's won a lot of his Super Bowls without a true number 1 receiver.
Yep.
That's why he's graded so high. Because when you look at Joe, you say, well, Joe, you had Jerry Rice, the greatest receiver of all time.
Yep.
When you look at Terry Bradshaw, you say, Terry, you had 2 Hall of Fame receivers and you have a Hall of Fame running back.
He did.
When you look at Troy, you say Troy, but you had a Hall of Fame running back, a Hall of Fame wide receiver. When you look at Tom Brady, he's had none of these things.
Okay.
This is why he gets so much credit, and rightfully so. But the thing is, Skip, at the end of the day, do you win, do you lose? He's won more than he's lost. So right now, I still have Joe because, like you tell me, Michael Jordan was 6 for 6. Joe Montana is 4-0.
He is, and I agree. Now, back to what Tom Brady is working with on the other side of the ball. Obviously, New England's defense has been efficiently very effective because they are the number 1 scoring defense in points allowed. But help me out here. Do you see a game-changing star anywhere on that defense? Anybody pop your eyes? Does anybody jump off your screen when you're watching them? No, they don't have any one takeover guy, right?
Right.
This is a solo star team, a single star team. It's really, in the end, Tom Brady or bust. He has to play at an extremely high level for this team to survive and advance. And I believe that's exactly what they're about to do, survive at home and advance. All I know is Tom Brady, Foxborough, enough said. Close game, lower scoring, maybe last-second field goal. I'm going 23-20 Tom Brady.
Well, the thing is, this is what you know going into Foxborough. You're going to need to score somewhere between 25 and 27 points because you automatically assume with Tom Brady playing at home and in the confines that he's very familiar with, the weather, he knows what's going on. So you go in there with the mindset, somehow we got to get 4 touchdowns on the board, some way, somehow. And when you look at Coach Belichick, what he's always been able to do, whatever you do well, he takes that away from you. Now, if you look at the playoffs, Le'Veon Bell has the 2 best back-to-back games for guys starting in playoffs in NFL history. He's over 300 yards rushing. So obviously, Coach Belichick, he's on that same principle that Coach Saban, or Coach Saban has the same principle as Bill Belichick. Shut the run, force them to do other things. Now think about what you're asking when you stop the run, what you're trying to do. You're saying, you know what? Ben Roethlisberger, we know you've won 2 Super Bowls, you've been to 3. We want you to throw the ball to Antonio Brown, and Eli Rodgers, and Colts, and to Jesse James. That's what we want. I think Ben Roethlisberger is up to the challenge. Also, unless you have a historically great defense like the Broncos had last year, you're going to probably have to have a quarterback that can go toe-to-toe with Tom Brady and probably match him pass for pass. I believe Ben Roethlisberger, where he is in his career currently, I believe he can do that. Le'Veon Bell is the X factor to me because a lot of times you get guys to try to simulate what he does. The hardest thing was that when we had to prepare for Barry Sanders, who could do that? Who could you pitch the ball to and says, okay, do whatever you want to do. This is sandlot football. Just run wherever you want to run. Le'Veon Bell, he'll take the ball and he'll walk to the hole. Normally when guys get to the hole, they explode through the hole. But he'll walk through the hole. And he lulls people to sleep like, okay, well, he's about to pop out here. Well, you see the hole there and you think he's going to pop out there, and next thing you know, he's all the way backside. He's the most patient, the extreme patient runner that I've ever seen. But Skip.
He's changed the NFL the way Steph Curry changed the NBA.
I'm not going
right?
I'm not going that far. Neither should he have gone that far. But he is a very unique talent. But he also can catch the ball out of the backfield. and you try to minimize James White and Deion Lewis. You didn't want to mention those guys, but they're a very valuable part of what the New England Patriots do offensively, especially throwing the football. But I got the Steelers in a very, very close ball game. I like what I'm seeing defensively. The reason why it was so hard for me to stay with this team, Skip, is because offensively, I knew if they were healthy, they would be here at the end. Because for big three players, I'll take Big Ben, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell against any of the big three in all the NFL, and that includes Dallas's big three.
Thinking about that one.
Oh, so you think Dez Bryant's better than Antonio Brown? You think Dak Prescott is better than Ben Roethlisberger?
I think Ezekiel Elliott is way better than Le'Veon Bell. That's what I think. That closes the case. And Dak is right there with Ben because Dak outbend Ben at Pittsburgh. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. Did you see that the last 42 seconds?
I think that measure that they passed on the ballot on November 8th, where now it's legal to have recreational marijuana, I think you maybe been partaking. If you think the big three in Dallas.
Never even experiment.
If you think the big three in Dallas is better than the big three in Pittsburgh.
Sorry.
But Skip, if you go back, since Bud Dupree has got back inserted because he was injured, since he's gotten back into the lineup, this is a different defense.
Okay, so isn't this the first time that Tom's had to deal with the big three, all three together?
Yes,
right? Okay.
yes. Because he's played, you remember, when they won the Super Bowl, they opened up, Le'Veon was suspended. You remember they played earlier this year.
They did.
Big Ben was hurt. So now you get an opportunity to see the big three.
The firepower.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yes.
So Pittsburgh has won 9 straight games. Obviously, New England struggled, albeit that they covered against the Houston Texans last week in Foxborough. Yet, the harder I look at Pittsburgh, the less worried I am, because just off the fact that this is the first time the big three is together against Tom, that could flat out scare me. But when I look harder at what happened to Pittsburgh all year long, when you did give up on them at some point, they were hit and miss. They wound up 10th in points scored, which I don't quite get. Something was missing because Ben didn't have his best year. He was 9th overall in QBR. So I look at what happened. The Dolphins went in there, a warm weather team that clearly in the first half just didn't want to tackle anybody, and it got out of hand. And then Pittsburgh goes up to Kansas City, and I told you all year, Kansas City just can't score. They had lost 2 late home games in which they scored 17 and 17, and they managed 16 against Pittsburgh. I'm not that impressed with that win, even though it was at Arrowhead. But at Arrowhead, they've lost their home field mystique.
Yes.
You know, that's now, 5 straight playoff losses at Arrowhead for the Kansas City Chiefs. So then New England has played a weak schedule. Well, look at Pittsburgh. As they got on their roll, 6 of their last 7 opponents did not make the playoffs. I'm not sure about them. So I'm not dead sure about New England's offense when it's just mostly Brady to Edelman. You can probably thwart that or at least stop it, control it. But I'm going to throw this one last point in. I still think the Antonio Brown situation, the Facebook Live situation, will have some subtle negative impact on the mindset of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it will be just enough, because I have high regard for their coach and for the way they've come back together, that I still say Brady will be good enough to overcome them, especially in Foxborough.
I'll give you my score. I got the Steelers 27. I got the Patriots 23.
27-23. So we have the same New England score, but you have Pittsburgh scoring 7 more points than I have.
Yes.
That's about what it would take. If you're going to be right, that score, I bet, will be right in the ballpark. But I will be right.
No mercy.
Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers will meet in the Super Bowl if they both win on Sunday. Brady had 28 touchdown passes and only 2 interceptions for New England this year. Rodgers led the league in touchdown passes this year and hasn't lost since mid-November. We're joined by Chris Carter. Welcome, Chris. Happy Friday.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
What are you here to discuss today? Insurance premiums? Because you dress like an insurance salesman today.
He's got the Ohio State colors on today.
Well, there's a thing called corporate America, and sometimes you got to wear stuff that you're more corporate, especially with you up here.
Yeah,
You
I
got
personally
every
think
color in
one
the
of the two of
kaleidoscope
you look
going.
sharp today, and it's not you.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
he gets jealous.
You've got sort of like a
gets
boarding
jealous.
school look going on today.
Joy Taylor.
A
Are those
boarding
shades?
school
You had
look.
stuff like the tie with the design.
Little schoolboy.
Say something about my
Little
dress.
prep school.
Say something.
I ain't gonna say
Prep
no,
school.
I'm not gonna say anything about the flowers in January. I'm just gonna let it slide.
Anyway.
We're in California, though. Flowers you can wear all year round.
It's still January.
Chris, who's more valuable to their team right now, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I just wonder if New England had 2 of their top receivers questionable, and they didn't have their starting running back, how would the storyline change? Because that is the storyline with Green Bay. In Green Bay, we all still feel like they have a chance. And if Aaron Rodgers wasn't on Green Bay, we know they wouldn't be this far. But the backup in New England is they still have Belichick and they still have Garoppolo as the backup. So you just ask me who's more valuable. So you ask, okay, what if one of the guys wasn't there? Both of them are very, very valuable. But in New England, they have more support as a coach, as an organization, and as the backup quarterback. So for me, Aaron Rodgers is more important because he can't be replaced. I saw 4 games this year with New England. They strolled someone out there at quarterback, and they were 3-1. Those games could have easily been 4-0. So it's a very, very tough question. It's one of those kind of questions that Skip put you to, that you have to really think and you have to really. Aaron Rodgers is more important because Garoppolo can come right in. If he gets nicked, Garoppolo can come right in. They're not going to change the game plan that much. That's just my 2 cents on this Friday in my gray suit.
Well, Skip, well, CC, we trying to get to a nickel. Well, I'm finna add my 3 cents, and we got a nickel. Skip Bayless, I've been trying to tell you this for the longest. Why won't you listen to me, Skip? It hurts me to have to correct you constantly because I'm not like that. I really don't like correcting you, Skip, because I love you so much. You've done so much for me. You helped me grow by leaps and bounds. I wouldn't be here without Skip.
It's getting deep across here.
But Skip, let's be real. You and I both know because we've seen quarterbacks come in when Brady got injured, and we saw Matt Castle. They didn't make the playoffs, but 11-5, that was because the Jets had a great season that year. We saw him miss the first 4 games of this season, and they go 3-1 with a backup
The backup.
The backup to the backup won a game.
Jacoby.
27-0 over the Houston Texans. But Skip, think about this. I believe this with I told Skip yesterday, CC, I don't know if you heard. I believe with all my fiber, had Tom Brady not played this year, I still believe they're not 14-2, but I still believe they're at least 12-4. Look, I mean, they played Cleveland Browns, they played Cincinnati, they played Buffalo, San Francisco, the Rams, the Jets, the Dolphins. Come on, Skip. You know good and well Jimmy Garoppolo could beat those teams. So maybe it goes to a situation where Kansas City is 12-4. The Patriots are 12-4. So now we got to go to conference record. Now we got to go to common opponents. But I still believe they don't miss a beat. The Packers are not going to be in the playoffs without Aaron Rodgers because so much of what Aaron Rodgers does is not on this. They don't draw up a play and say, well, Aaron, you go back there and pat the ball for 5 seconds and throw the ball 40 yards on a rope down the field.
Yeah,
That's not what they do.
Pull the left guard, too, just in case I need an extra protector out there.
Everything, because so much what he does is off script. And that's what makes him so unique. A lot of quarterbacks can play when they're on script. Coach holds a 2-jet flanker drive. Everybody can run that. But all of a sudden, when the things break down and you really don't have nothing but a screwdriver, but you need a monkey wrench or a pipe wrench to get something done. That's that joker right there. He got pliers, he got a flashlight, vice grips. He got everything, washers, sinkers. He got everything you need in his toolbox to get it done.
Tell me when you're finished. That's all I want to know is when you're finished.
I'm going to leave it like this.
Yes.
You and I both, I know you love Tom.
No.
There's nothing not to like about Tom.
I admire Tom.
There's nothing not to like or admire
I think
about
we all do that.
Yeah, of course. But I thought this was a trick question when you asked me. Because it's not even
Because it's definitely Skip's question.
Yeah, I thought it was
I know that. I'm new, but I ain't new.
Yeah.
Okay? I know this is Skip's question.
You knew with a K, not with the N first.
Yes.
So, to use your analogy to start with, your opinion is worth about a nickel to me. Like remember plug nickels? That's what it's worth. It's a plug nickel opinion.
That was a fake nickel.
Because it's offensive to me. Because we shouldn't even be having this conversation, which is why this really isn't my kind of question. But the point is that Tom Brady is doing so much more with so much less than Aaron Rodgers has to work with that's why this is not even close. It's to the point Tom Brady is doing it with mirrors. I don't know if people grasp, that's why I'm happy to do this question, just how much Tom Brady has pulled off over the last 6 weeks without that guy named Gronkowski. Remember that guy?
Yes.
Uncoverable, right? Yes. Most dominating tight end. Even you went so far as to when we were in New York to say He's on path
Yes.
to be better than you, right?
He was just saying that for TV. He don't believe that.
I don't know.
mess.
I looked in
He's
his
too
eyes.
injured.
I
No,
saw
He got
truth.
off to a great start, but a fast start don't mean
I don't think
mean
so.
a
I
great
saw
career.
truth in your eyes.
No.
I heard truth in your voice that day.
Could I ask you a question? Garoppolo didn't have Gronkowski. And guess what? Those same receivers that you say are not very good.
I told you what happened.
Garoppolo.
Arizona did not take them seriously enough, and Arizona was completely overrated. And then it was Brock Osweiler, and we can just go through. But then all of a sudden, the man came back and threw 28 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions, the greatest touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history
better than Nick Foles,
because he is
27.
on a mission. So he's gone 6 straight weeks without Rob Gronkowski. You're going to need that after you watered it up. And I told you, as soon as Gronkowski went down, I feared that Martellus Bennett was not that guy.
Nope.
I'm not sure he's made of quite that stuff that you need to be in the spotlight to take up the slack for a Rob Gronkowski in New England, because that's a lot of heat and a lot of pressure that he has not felt.
Yeah,
so what's happened?
Following Gronk is not easy. Skip.
You got it. So and Tom Brady thinks it must not be very easy either, because over these last 6 games, 4 targets a game has Martellus averaged. 2 catches a game has Martellus averaged, for a total of an average of 28 yards a game, which is no impact. Against the Houston Texans in the first playoff game, Martellus Bennett, the new Gronkowski, caught 1 ball for 4 yards. Well, that's not very good. We're not exactly talking about Aaron Hernandez here, right?
No.
In impact, right?
Right.
Okay, so now I look at, does Tom have a Devontae Adams? No. Does he have a Randall Cobb? I don't see it. I'm not so sure he has a Ty Montgomery. I have respect for Ty Montgomery because he can rip and slash. When you least expect it, he'll rip you for about 18 yards carrying it, and he can go catch it that's what he does
What about
best.
Lewis and White?
Yeah, Deion,
Okay?
he's better than
Little
him.
Deion Lewis. Let him run between the tackles all day and see how far you're going to get. Because against Houston last week, Houston has a good defense. He caught 2 for 23, and he ran it 13 times for 41 yards. Is that game-changing? Now, he ran a kickback. If you want to talk about kick return, I'll take that.
But he ran for 90 yards against the Broncos when he run up the middle, and you wondered why they didn't run LeGarrette Blount. He had a big game.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened to LeGarrette, but LeGarrette's going to have to come up big this time, obviously, against Pittsburgh. So I look at what has happened to the receiving core here. Well, Chris Hogan's nicked, and Amendola's been nicked all year, and Malcolm Mitchell's been nicked. And then Michael Floyd, I don't think he exactly emerged as Julio Jones. I might be wrong, but I'm not seeing it because I think Tom Brady is not seeing it. And as soon as Tom threw him one right there that skimmed off his hands into a pick.
That was a bad pass.
It was
That
a
was a
little,
bad
he
pass.
let
It was
him a
too
little
far-
bit.
it was too far in
but
front of him on the slant.
You've got to control it a little better. It went right through the tips of his fingers. I thought Chris Carter would have caught the ball.
Yeah, but the only thing common with me and Michael Floyd is we play wide receiver.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I agree. I agree. Thank you. Thank you. I agree. So guess what? It has degenerated for Tom Brady into Julian Edelman or bust. The number 1 receiver, the go-to guy, is a 7th-round draft pick who played quarterback in college and isn't quite as large as you are or as large as you are, because he's a tough little guy.
Right, he's a good little football player.
He's a good little football player.
Yes.
But that's your go-to guy. And you say offer on script. Well, the script is basically option route. You're going to go right or left. I'm going to have to guess that you're seeing right, so I'm going to throw it to the right, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
every time we talk about New England and Tom Brady, we never talk about the support. Like, how many points Brady got to score? If they score 21, they good.
Okay. Is there a game-changing player on New England's defense? Show me one. Because I got to tell you.
they do it by system.
Okay, they do it by system, but Clay Matthews can change games to me. Julius Peppers is still capable of rising up and changing a game.
You asked me a question. I
Yes,
do have another.
okay.
Malcolm Butler. He is a game changer.
Yeah, he's
Now,
not
as a
at
cover guy.
Didn't even make a Pro Bowl this year.
But that's
okay?
not his fault.
All right.
I mean, if you watch him, he can play zone, play
I
man.
know. I like him a lot. Yeah.
He travels.
He does.
He's not a shutdown corner,
Yeah.
but Belichick makes him travel. So they do. And their defensive front is really underrated, which
Okay.
I'll get
And
into
what did
later.
Chris Carter tell us? Who has the best pass blocking line in all of football?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
More time than any
Advantage
quarterback.
Aaron Rodgers,
Yes.
right? So I'm going to close the case with this one. Who is more beloved in his locker room, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers? And
Well,
that's
we know
very
that's not
important.
even close.
Okay, that's important because when the chips are down, the money's on the table, and it's cold in January, this team, the New England Patriots, believes heart and soul in their leader because he's one of them. He's not above them. He's not dismissive. He's not arrogant. He's not going to blame deflect. He's going to take all the blame for any loss. It's my fault. I played lousy, and they love him for that. So that reservoir of love that he's built over all these years, it's why they keep surviving and advancing, because they believe in and love their quarterback in ways they don't love this guy in
Can I ask
Green
you a
Bay.
question, Skip? Since Brady came back, let me ask you a question. If Jimmy Garoppolo is their quarterback, CC, you tell me the game that they don't win. Cleveland, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh without Big Ben, Tyrod Taylor. Okay, they lost with Tom Brady to Seattle. The 49ers, the Jets, the Rams, the Ravens, the Broncos, the Jets, or the Dolphins.
They would have lost.
What game?
One more game just for bad luck and having a Sunday or Monday off.
So-
That's one more game they would have lost.
Ravens, they would have lost to the Ravens. And then you know who they would have lost to? They would have lost to the Houston Texans in the #1 defense. That's what would have happened. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Garoppolo could have did
I'm
what
saying it's
Tom
a
did last week. Wait a
I
second,
don't
wait a
think
second.
so.
Wait.
No.
Garoppolo could have done what Tom
No.
did last week because he was not spectacular last
Under
week.
50%,
Hey.
2 interceptions. Should have had 3 because A.J. Boyette guessed
Number-
right on the slant.
#1 defense in pro football is Houston's. There's talent everywhere. Jadeveon is flying. Merciless is flying. Those corners are really good. I'm sorry, that's talent.
You just told me the segment before that when he had the highest QB rating in NFL history in the postseason since it came into existence, he played the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
They had a very good defense. So why couldn't he put up that same QBR against the Houston Texans?
Well, again, Houston came in hot, I thought.
Okay.
They just won a playoff game. They were flying. Was Jadeveon? I don't think Garrard had a Jadeveon Clowney on the other side.
But you said that Jacksonville had a great defense. That's what you
they
told
were
me.
really good that
They
year.
were
They were
ranked.
ranked. They were
Yes.
top 5 defense. They
They
were
were.
just rock solid that year.
Rank.
Huh? Yeah, well.
Aaron Rodgers it is, 2-1.
No mercy.
Wednesday night, Russell Westbrook had a triple-double, but his Thunder were blown out by Kevin Durant and the Warriors. At the end of the game, though, Russell Westbrook yelled at Enes Kanter for apparently talking to a Warriors player. Let's take a listen.
Coming up on Monday, Thunder will be in City to play the Utah Jazz. Monday, Thunder will be in City to play the Utah Jazz.
Chris Broussard joins us now. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Shannon, let me start with you. What's your reaction?
Right now, Russell Westbrook is allowing Kevin Durant to hold his feelings hostage. Clearly, Kevin Durant has moved on, but Russell hasn't. When you say this, Chris Broussard, you know, when we talk to one another and we use the band term, B-A-N, we seriously, we strenuously dislike you. Russell Westbrook knows that the only reason Kevin Durant left was because of him. He felt that he could not win a championship playing with you, playing the style of basketball that you play. It became abundantly clear because Kevin Durant has said, I like the way they throw the ball, I like the way we move the ball, I love the free flowing of the offense. Every chance he's getting, he's taking a little subtle jab. Not no heavy knockout punch, just a little body blow to Russell to let him know. But Russell is going to have to move on. But I also think it goes to the bigger picture of why the fans look at him differently than they look at Steph Curry. Now, because if you take the two guys, Chris, both of the guys are married. Both of the guys are very, very family-oriented.
Yes.
But Steph comes across as being warm, fuzzy, cuddly. Russell comes across as being full of rage, hard, abrasive, in your face, because that's the type of game that he has. He's a running back playing point guard in the NBA. He's going where he wants to go, when he wants to go, and he dares you to try and stop him. But the perception is that Steph is this nice, fun-loving, cuddly guy. Steph Curry is an assassin. But that's just the way people perceive him. And perception is 99% of a person's reality.
Agreed. Well said.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I think, but I'll say this. I like Russ's attitude. It's us against the world.
So do I.
That's what Larry Bird believed. That's what Michael Jordan felt. Isaiah Thomas,
Yes.
when he had to go through the Boston
Big three.
Big Three, the Lakers, the Bulls,
Yep.
that was his mentality. Screw them, it's us.
Right.
So I
I'm
like
not sure
that.
they wore it on their sleeves the way Russ does, where it's so painfully clear that he is in full attack mode.
Let me ask you a question.
And I get it.
You
Like,
think Isaiah would have ever said something if Rick Mahorn or one of the guys tried to shake Magic hand, you think they say, man, forget that band?
I think he may have. Look, Russ didn't think the cameras, he didn't know that they were going to pick this up.
That's my point, because you're most comfortable where? In your environment. The court is Russ's environment. He felt comfortable.
There weren't camera phones.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They may have said stuff like that.
So that's my point. You will say and do things when you're most comfortable in your environment. Now, social media has given us a glimpse into people's lives from thousands and thousands of miles away. Now the microphone, the boom mics, can pick up things that was normally unaudible. But truth be told, it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle this All-Star game situation.
It's going to be
there's no love lost between these two.
Well, to your point about the All-Star vote, first let's get some clarity. The fans voted Westbrook in. The media and the players voted, they voted Westbrook and Harden. The fans voted in Steph.
Right.
I was part of that media that voted. I voted for Westbrook and Harden to start.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that a
and
no-brainer?
They voted for,
I
think it is. As great as Steph is, he's not having the season these two are having. But look, the fans also voted in Zaza Pachulia to start. Thank God that the NBA finally changed the format at just the right time. Zaza, with all due respect, shouldn't even be in the state of Louisiana.
He shouldn't have been on the ballot.
At the All-Star game. Okay, as far as Russ is likability, all three of these guys have commercials. Harden, Steph, Russ. Because it's not just Steph over Russ, it's Harden over Russ too. But their commercials, they're more likable. Like you said, like Harden lets you into his personality. Do you want me to play all defense? Do you want me to be boring? Or do you want me to be like I am, my gregarious self? Steph has his wife in commercials with him. You never see Russ's wife. And I don't even know, Russ is with what? Sprite, Mountain Dew, whatever
Mountain
it is.
Dew. And what is Mountain Dew?
He's not even talking, I don't believe, in those commercials. He's just scooting around, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not letting you in. He's not relating with the fans. And I think that goes to your point that fans see him as angry and they love Steph.
Steph Curry is beloved for many levels of reasons, but wife stars with him in the commercials. We always see his two great supportive parents courtside. His father obviously played in the NBA, and they're so likable, both of them. And I know he has two kids now, but Riley became America's sweetheart, and that helped Steph a lot.
Yes.
Because she kept going to the post-game interviews on the biggest NBA stage. And remember, a lot of NBA fans can better relate to Steph because he comes across as a slender little guy who can beat the Giants at their own game by shooting it from 40 feet. Yeah. So he's doing things that a lot of people can relate to doing. We can all go out in the driveway and shoot 35-foot shots, right? So he is eminently more likable. And then Kevin Durant, maybe inadvertently, turned Russell into a villain. Because remember, Russell didn't see this coming. I don't care. I was really plugged into this situation. I've told you for weeks about it. But Russ got blindsided by this. He had no idea how much Kevin disliked playing with him. Kevin didn't dislike Russ. They got along just fine. So this hit Russ the upside of the head. You know, like,
Russ
what?
Reportedly asked Kevin at dinner,
he did.
How can I change?
Yeah, what can I do
to keep you here? Like,
exactly.
What do you
and I'm
need
not
to
saying
do?
he crawled or begged, but he opened his heart up like, what can I do? Well, Kevin, his heart was shut at that point. He wanted to get out. He'd had enough of this egomaniacal rage and tunnel vision, give me the ball and get out of my way, Russell Westbrook attack mode that he plays with. And so Kevin said, I want to go play with the team that shares the ball. And you want to talk about betraying your quote-unquote brother? And so all of a sudden, America starts looking at this situation like, wait a second, he left that guy because he couldn't stand him, which nobody really got.
Right.
Nobody really knew.
Correct.
And all of a sudden, Russell is the villain. Because how does Russell come across in post-game interviews all too often? Surly and defensive. Am I right? Yep. Chip on shoulder. And America perception is reality. And a lot of fans watch those post games, which I think is in large part the fault of the Oklahoma City PR people. They let him get away with this. But he's so disdainful of the questions asked him that I think it plants seeds of doubt in people's minds like, God, he comes across as not a very nice guy. And then to your point, when they see the rage he plays with, it's a little bit daunting. You know, like you kind of sit back. Now, I love it the way you love it because I'm old school. I love that because Jordan played with that. It just didn't come quite across that way. Larry Bird was a little more stone-faced. You know.
Yeah, Bird, I'd compare Bird more to Westbrook than Jordan because Jordan had the commercials, come fly with me, be like Mike. Like, his persona was likable and lovable.
Space Jams, I believe I can fly.
Yep, and he knew how to play the media. And Westbrook does not care, and I think Bird didn't care.
Did not care.
You know, so I would compare him a lot to Larry Bird, and I like it. And look, I didn't kill Durant for leaving.
No.
Because I think when he wins 1, 2, 3, 4 rings,
I know.
The same people that killed him are going to be praising him. It's already starting to happen.
I think the thing for Russell is he could have stomached him going anywhere but that team.
He's got to think he's the softest dude on the planet, right?
Right.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Because he said we were down, we were up 3-1, and we had 3 opportunities to blow this team out the water.
You got it.
This is the team that we've been chasing. So instead of you staying with me and beating them, you go join them to make a super team.
Hence what he called him on the court. And I have no issue with that. I get it.
Yes.
Because I think that came straight from his heart, and I'm not condemning him for that.
It's gonna be a while before they ever, and I don't know if they'll ever be like what they once was.
I don't think
but
so.
when you go to that level, Chris Broussard, when you call another brother a band.
Well, LeBron in the finals, I mean, he told me to himself when Draymond called him that. He said that's one of 3 things you never say to a man on the court. I said, well, nobody's ever called you that playing ball?
Yeah.
He's like, not like that.
Yeah.
Look at me in the eye and said that. And this
Aha.
wasn't looking
That's what I've been telling
Durant
you.
in the
That
eye,
was
but
So that and that's so that look, I've been a black man for a long time, and I know what's offensive to another black man. I know if I want to get someone aroused in my race, I know exactly what to say. That's why I was so good at the talk game when I was on the field. Skip, I'm good with this mic now. I was real good with this thing on the field. Oh, this talk game has always been up to par. I've been a lip sparring champ for at least 40 years. So I know what to say to make you react to what I'm saying. Russell Westbrook knows. But the thing is, Chris, and you plugged into the NBA, how do they get past this? Or will they ever get past this?
I don't know if Russ will ever let it go.
I agree.
And the worst thing for Russ is that your team cannot compete.
No.
This is not like you're close.
No.
Like Jordan and Isaiah could be at odds, and they were close teams. Russ can play great, and there's no way they can beat that Golden State team.
Well,
That
February
triple-double
11th will be
goes by
interesting
20.
when Durant heads back to OKC, that's for sure.
No mercy.
Aaron Rodgers will be starting his 3rd NFC Championship game on Sunday. The 33-year-old Rodgers has been named regular season MVP twice and Super Bowl MVP since becoming the starter in 2008. Shannon, you've been very high on Aaron Rodgers. Right now, where do you rank Aaron Rodgers all time?
I believe he's top 5 quarterback right now. And I think
All time.
All time. What happens, Joy, is that people take everything, the Super Bowls. But I'm a body of work because if you just look at Super Bowls, you would say Ben Roethlisberger and Eli Manning, Jim Plunkett is better than Aaron Rodgers. Well, with the eye test, you and I both know, Skip, that's not even close to being true. The guy has 2 regular season MVPs. He has a Super Bowl MVP. I believe before it's all said and done, he will win another regular season MVP. I also believe he will get to and win another Super Bowl MVP. When you look at his body of work, regular season, the 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, there's only 2 men actually. He's done it twice. There's only 2 men that know what it's like to throw 40 plus or more touchdowns with single-digit interceptions. He and Tom Brady. He's done it twice. He did it this year when everybody said he was having an off year. That's how great he is. Having an off year, he goes 40-7. That's what I said, Skip. You see what you just did there? You said, Skip said, you like that? I didn't know he was like that, Joe.
That was actually a dismissive.
Oh, stop it, Skip. And I know, Skip, you want to look at his interception, I mean, not his interception, but his playoff record. But do you know he's averaging 29 points a game in his playoff career in all those games? And in his 6 losses, his defense is giving up an average of 35 points per game. What quarterback how many times, it'd be interesting to see, because I was a little pressed for time, how many quarterbacks have won a playoff game in which their defense have given up 35 or more points? All-time greats. I guarantee you, it's not many. And he lost 2 games in overtime. He never got a chance to get the ball back. He lost on a walk-off field. You know what it's like to lose in a walk-off field goal. It happened to you last week, did you, Skip? We were basically crawling, boom! And that ball said, you thought you like, ooh, it's gonna miss, he's gonna miss. I know you were standing up, and then you just slumped in your chair.
Slumped. I fell. I fell on the floor. Twice I fell on the floor. Looked up at the ceiling like, why me?
Yeah, and then Hazel came and licked your face and said, Dad, it's going to be...
She was not allowed near me the rest of that night.
She's like, Dad, it's going to be okay. It'll be okay tomorrow when you go to work. Hey, Shannon's going to bust you up, but I'm going to meet you at the door and wagging my little tail saying it's okay, Dad.
Let's get back to the matter at hand. I think you're trying to deflect here.
But Skip, when you look at his body of work, because I think it's harder to win the regular season MVP because they take the totality of 16 games. It's not hard to win. I shouldn't say it's not hard, but we've seen guys win Super Bowl MVP. We saw Larry Brown win an MVP. We saw Desmond Howard win an MVP. We've seen Dexter Jackson win an MVP. Winning the regular season, because think about it, there's only a handful of guys that you're actually competing against once you get to the Super Bowl. You know a lineman's not going to get it. Wide receiver, if a wide receiver gets it, that means what? Quarterback probably going to get it. Skip, I believe he's top 5 right now, looking at his body of work, looking at his resume, and although it's not complete. We know what Joe Montana did. We know what John Elway. We know what Marino and some of these other greats did. Right now, Tom Brady is still painting his canvas. Aaron Rodgers is still painting his canvas, and it's TBD, to be determined. But right now, I have him as a top 5 quarterback, and when it's all said and done, it's going to be who do you like? Do you like Joe? Do you like Tom? Or do you like Aaron?
You have Aaron Rodgers already ascending into the top 5 all-time when he's played in 1 Super Bowl, and he did win that 1 Super Bowl. And thanks to 2 wins this year, his playoff record has risen all the way to 9-6. And along the trail of the 9-6, he got 1 gimme against Joe Webb one time at home when the Vikings had to play their backup quarterback, and he got, thanks to a robbery of my Dallas Cowboys, because that was a catch. We know it was a catch, right? So that was a gimme right there.
I just want to know one thing. Are you holding the David Garrard, Jacksonville, and the Brock Osweiler, Houston Texans against Tom Brady? Because if you are, I'll discredit that.
But David Garrard that year, they were really good, and Tom Brady had the #1 QBR in that game in the history of the stat, and it came out in 2006, just for the record.
You got to be fairly good if you make the playoffs, because that means you beat a lot of teams to get to that
good
point.
Good defense that year. And then, of course,
what did they got to do with David Garrard?
We know what happened last week, that Aaron Rodgers, to get off the hook, needed a 56-yarder and a 51-yarder to save him.
Why do you do that, Skip? Why do you do that?
I'm just showing you what happened in a 9-6 record. So now, are we talking about beauty contest here? Because it all comes down to beauty. It's what your eyes tell. It's the eye test. He's the greatest thrower of the football ever. If we do greatest throwers of the football ever, I'll give you second all time. I'll give you that he's the best thrower of the football behind Dan Marino, who didn't have a Super Bowl win, right? But just if we're doing pure, how well do you cut loose with the football? I will give you that one. But if we're talking about achievement, it's laughable to put him in the top 5, because you can say TBD. Are we talking about projection? If you're talking about projection, I can't argue, because who knows what's going to happen from this point forward.
I know.
But
another MVP and a Super Bowl win.
All right, well, then you come back and talk to me.
No, I'm talking to you right now.
We'll come back and tell me about top 5 then, because
I might be talking about #1 then.
Because I look at Aaron Rodgers' record he's now played in 12 seasons. He's played 15 playoff games. He has 1 QBR in all those 15 above 90. Only one. It was the Matt Ryan game, a 96, when he blew him off his own field. And I think that might happen again this time, where he's going to have that kind of a game. But you look at the all-time QBRs in the top 25. Tom Brady has 4 of the top 25. Aaron Rodgers has just 1 in the top 25, which was the 5th ranked, and Brady also has the #1 against Jacksonville. So now let's look at achievement. And this is, as Joy asked the question, it's right now, right? Does he rank right now? And I'm having to go on achievement. And obviously Montana was 4 for 4. Tom Brady has 5 rings, we all know, and a 23. No, he doesn't. He has 4, actually, but he should have 5. But he's 23-9 as Tom Brady in the playoffs. So 9-6 versus 23-9. I don't think that quite compares. Let's do your man, John Elway. He was 14-7 in the postseason. He went to 5 Super Bowls and won 2 late, thanks to Terrell Davis in part and some to Shannon Sharpe. But whatever, he got 2 rings over 2 out of 5.
How do you know I have him ranked ahead of John Elway? I see he's top 5.
Okay, well, I'm still going. I'm just getting started here. My man Rodgers Staubach he's in my top 5 with 2 rings, an 11-6 playoff record, and 4 Super Bowl appearances. Now we got to do all the 2-ring quarterbacks because Aaron's only got 1 now, and Roethlisberger 2 rings and a 13-6 postseason and 3 Super Bowl appearances. That's better than Aaron right now. Okay. We got to throw Peyton in there with 2 rings. He was only 14-13 in the postseason, but 4 Super Bowls to Aaron's only 1. And then how about the great Terry Bradshaw? 4 for 4. I mean, he gets discounted here, but 4 for 4 with a 14-5 playoff record.
But think about it, Skip. You know why he gets discounted.
Okay, because of Swan and
Stallworth. And then he had also Franco in the backfield.
And
then
he had like 5 Hall of Famers on defense.
And his coach was a Hall of Famer, and his owner is a Hall of Famer.
But the hardest position to play in football is the quarterback, and you have to make the right choices and the right throws under big-time pressure.
That's a very difficult position to play.
Yeah.
But that position becomes a lot easier when you have Hall of Fame talent around you.
Okay. Speaking of Hall of Fame talent, like Troy Aikman, was he the driving force of that dynasty in the 90s of the Dallas Cowboys? No, but he has 3 rings, and he was 11-4 in the playoffs and 3 for 3 in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but what did your eye tell you? You name it.
Okay, but here, I even have to throw Eli in above Aaron right now, and I don't like Eli Manning.
Man, but
wait a second. When you beat Tom Brady head-to-head twice in Super Bowls, even though one was like...
He beat him twice. They don't got to...
Okay, well, then you're making my case for me. And you beat an 18-0 team in the Super Bowl? That's pretty good. So you go 2 for 2 and your playoff record's 8-4. That's better than Aaron's 9-6. So I got to put Eli up there. And the great Brett Favre, I'm sorry, just on longevity, I know he's 1 Super Bowl out of 2, but he did get to 2. Aaron hasn't gotten to 2 yet.
And got more interceptions than anybody.
Okay, that's fine. But he set every record for longevity that you could set.
Skip. If you do something long enough, Skip, if I collect cans for 20 years, I'm going to have a stockpile of cans.
What are you going to do with them?
That's my point. If you play long enough, you're going to collect stats.
Okay.
I mean, you keep like, he played 20 years. He should have.
Okay, but Brett Favre at age 40 had the greatest 40-year-old season ever. 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and should have had the Vikings, except for 12 men on the field call in overtime. Remember that?
What about the interception? Did that count?
Well, but it was 12 men on the field. It knocked him back. It made it 3rd and 10 or whatever it was, and he forced an interception.
You named all those guys, and with the exception of Peyton, what do your eyes tell you?
Okay, let's do this one. We're doing achievement here, not eye test. I don't care what my eyes tell me. How about Joe Flacco? Seriously, you laugh at him in the regular season. Wait a second. Joe Flacco is 10-5 in the postseason, 1 for 1 in the Super Bowl, with 2 wins in the playoffs at New England and 1 huge win at Denver with a hail fluko. Remember that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, those are huge wins. That's a legacy, man.
And I'm not trying to discount Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco has never led the league in passing, never led the league in yards, never led the league in touchdowns.
It's all about the postseason.
Never gone to the Pro Bowl, because you know who vote for the Pro Bowls? The players, the coaches, and the fans.
Okay.
So the players and the coaches that vote never thought enough of Joe Flacco. All those guys you mentioned, how many of those guys have won regular season MVPs? Because that's a body of work for an entire season, not one game.
Okay, I got one last name for you. Kurt Warner went to 3 Super Bowls, won 1. He's 9-4 in the postseason versus 9-6 for the great Aaron Rodgers, historically great. So I just named you 1, 2. I didn't even throw Dan Marino in this yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I got 12 ranked on achievement in the postseason that matters above Aaron Rodgers.
How many guys on that list, other than Kurt Warner and Peyton Manning, are 2-time league MVPs?
I don't know. I didn't check that. I only care about the postseason.
Okay.
That's all.
So the regular season doesn't do anything.
It's lasting legacy. When do you make your money? When do you make your mark, Shannon Sharpe, with 3 Super Bowl rings?
So let me ask you a question. How many Hall of Famers do you think Aaron Rodgers will play with in his career?
I don't know. You said it's TBD.
I'm just, because, all those quarterbacks you mentioned, other than Dan, played with a Hall of Fame wide receiver or had a Hall of Fame running back. I do not believe that Aaron Rodgers is currently playing with one or have played with one.
How many will Tom Brady play with except for that brief fling with Randy Moss?
It doesn't matter if it was brief. He played with one. I also believe that Gronk will eventually get into the Hall of Fame. Now, it might cut him down from being at first ballot because of the injuries. But I do believe that he will make it to the Hall of Fame. But Skip, you got to give regular season. The guys led the league in passing touchdowns. The guys led the league in QB in quarterback rating. He has the highest single-season quarterback rating in NFL history, and it's not even close. So that means something. And for me, look, what Peyton was able to do with 2 different franchises speaks for itself. But there's not a whole lot of guys. Put it like this here. If he's in the room, and if he's not at the table currently, he's peeking over Joe Montana and Tom Brady's shoulder.
Peeking over their shoulder with 1 Super Bowl appearance?
Skip.
Really?
Skip. See,
they're laughing. Somewhere they're laughing.
But see, this is the problem that we have. And this is why you win Super Bowls. Everybody's saying Eli's elite. Joe Flacco's elite. They've never been elite. You can't be elite. You need to win regular season MVPs. It needs to be a body of work, not one game, Skip. Anybody can be good for one game. We've seen Timmy Smith had a 205 rushing performance in the Super Bowl. Nobody thought he was an elite running back.
Okay, but how elite was Aaron Rodgers in one of those games you say he didn't even get the ball back in overtime? How about that game at Seattle where they were up 19-7 with 11 minutes left in the game, and Aaron Rodgers had, I thought, his worst playoff game ever, a QBR of 48 on a scale of 0 to 100.
I'm not so sure if it wasn't the champion, if it wasn't a playoff game, I'm not so sure he would have even played.
Okay, but he did play, and he played by his standards poorly, and he took a real beating in the media up in Wisconsin, especially in Milwaukee. So don't give me that. That's not good enough. Like, give me legacy.
To whom much is given, much is required. Okay. And he's transcendental. He's transcendentally. He's very, very special, Skip Bayless. And you need to recognize this man's talent.
But not special enough to beat the Falcons.
No mercy.
This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. Thanks so much for listening, guys. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. We leave all the debates there for today. Come back and see us all next week as we break down the NFC and AFC Championship games. We'll be joined by Bill Romanowski, Todd Gurley, and Richie Incognito. Let's go Steelers.
Fox Sports 1 of 1.